Hello, welcome and thank you for joining this webinar, which is the next 5 FMPs. It's an introduction. The agenda today is we're going to introduce these next 5 FMP projects which are being developed. So as you can see there, Cockles, North Sea and Channel Sprat, Southern North Sea and Channel Scapes and Rays, Southern North Sea, Non-Quota Demersal and Queen Scallop. The webinar today aims to give you an overview of these FMPs and will introduce you to the teams responsible for developing and drafting them, and also how you can get involved in this. We are recording and the video will be available in the next Defra and MMO newsletter bulletins. The links for these, if you want to sign up, are on the team's event page, which is where you registered to attend. Soon I'll pass over to the first speaker to give an introduction about the FMP programme. Then we'll hear about each of these new 5 projects. After all of the speakers have spoken about the projects, we'll pick up questions in a short Q&A before moving on to a bit of a slide about the evaluation of the programme. So please hold any questions for the Q&A throughout until we're at that point. Your cameras and mics are turned off to allow us so that we can get through these presentations, but once we do reach the Q&A, we'll turn your mic on. We'll invite you to at that point. So I am going to now hand over to the first of our speakers for the programme introduction. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Nicola. Hi, I'm Tom. So I'm a policy advisor in the Fisheries Management Plans policy team in Defra. And I'm going to give a bit of an introduction and an overview to the FMP programme. So many of you will already be familiar with some of this, but I'll start at the beginning. So when we left the EU, we also left the Common Fisheries Policy, and we had the Fisheries Act in 2020. This set out the legal framework for domestic fisheries management. It set out the fisheries objectives, as well as the requirement to prepare and publish fisheries management plans, or FMPs, and it set out the sort of structure for FMPs. Then in 2022, so just over a year ago, we published the Joint Fisheries Statement, or the JFS, which set out the policy framework for UK fisheries management. The JFS also includes a list of 43 FMPs and the timetable for their preparation and publication. And so now we're at this sort of third stage where we're developing fisheries management plans, and those FMPs set out goals, policies and measures for a sustainable fishery. So what is a fisheries management plan? In a nutshell, fisheries management plans are about sustainable stocks. So they set out policies and actions to manage fishing activity so that stocks are restored to or maintained at sustainable levels. So they assess the status of stocks and then set out the policies for sustainable harvesting. Beyond that, they can also address wider environmental, social and economic issues, as well as contributing to the achievement of the fisheries objectives in the Act. Next slide, please. We've had a lot of feedback, particularly over the summer on the first batch of FMPs that we consulted on, basically about stakeholder fatigue and consultation fatigue. A lot of people asking why we're sort of working on the next set of FMPs when we haven't even published the first. So for a bit of context, the Joint Fisheries Statement set out the timetable for publication of fisheries management plans. So you can see the 15 plans on the screen are the ones that Defra are coordinating. So we're aiming to publish the first batch by the end of this year, and then publish the next set next year, and then formal plans in 2025. That timetable or those deadlines are legal requirements because we set them out in the Joint Fisheries Statement, and it's quite important that we keep to those timetables and timelines to try and deliver the commitments that we've set out in the Fisheries Act, and that we actually publish these plans and that we make progress on delivering change. We appreciate that this can cause a bit of a burden on stakeholders, particularly the industry when people are out fishing. There's quite a lot of events that we ask people to attend, and sort of consultation material to read and respond to. But we appreciate people's efforts and stakeholders engaging with this process, and we're always sort of keen to hear how we might improve this process and how engagement might work better given the volume of FMPs that we're developing. I'll leave it there and then pass over to Tim to talk about the Cockles FMP.
Thanks, Tom. Hello, everybody. My name's Tim Smith. I'm Senior Policy Officer for the Association of Inshore Fisheries and Conservation Authorities. So the association represents and takes direction from the 10 regional IFCAs around the country. So I'm leading on the Cockles FMP. Now, the Sea Fishery Committees succeeded by the IFCAs have overseen and managed the harvesting of cockles for decades with bylaws and regulating orders. And since the introduction of MPAs, the IFCAs have managed the cockle fisheries within this framework as well, taking account of wider ecosystem impacts. Now, the evolution of management, harvesting methods and market forces has created 4 distinct and really locally specific cockle fisheries, primarily in the Thames, in Kent and Essex's district, in the Wash and Eastern IFCA's district, in the Northwestern IFCA district, particularly around sort of Morecambe Bay, and in Southern IFCA's district around Poole Harbour and the Solent fisheries. Now, it's within this landscape that a national English Cockle FMP is being developed by the AIFCA. If we move on to the next slide, please. Now, the ambition is that the FMP will work alongside the long-established regional management regimes by placing them within a common framework plan that can identify national issues that have an impact on and can advance all the English cockle fisheries. And we're aware that significant renewals of some regional management measures are in train. The FMP will collate the information on how these fisheries are managed so that best practice can be shared and to highlight the importance of these regional fisheries. So we are engaging through the managing IFCA authorities, national industry representation bodies, and there'll also be an opportunity for stakeholders to input on draft objectives before the public consultation next year in 2024. So the email below on the bottom of the slide there can be used to register your interest in receiving further communications. So thank you for listening to me today, and I'll hand over to Rui for the Sprat FMP.
Thank you, Tim. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rui Vieira. I'm a senior fisheries scientist at the CIFAS, and I will give you a brief overview of the North Sea and Channel Sprat FMP. So the CIFAS is the delivery partner for the Sprat FMP. This is a joint commitment from Defra and the Scottish government to publish the North Sea and Channel Sprat FMP, which covers the English and Scottish waters, so areas, ICES areas 4 and 7D and 7E. At the moment, there is no stock-specific management plan for Sprat, but these stocks are included in the current TAC system. And the relevant for the FMP, there are 2 TACs for Sprat occurring within the FMP area, one in the UK and EU waters of Suberia, ICES Suberia 4, and the UK waters of Division 2, so in the northern part of Scottish waters of the Scottish coast. And the second stock in the English Channel. There is a further TAC in Division 3A, but is outside the scope of the FMP. So the majority of the fishery occurs in the central and southern areas of the North Sea and in the Western Channel in the Lime Bay area, and is primarily a pelagic trawl fishery. Next slide, please. So we have established the Sprat FMP working group, and this working group is guiding the preparation of the management plan by coordinating the engagement with the fishing industry and the relevant stakeholders, and the collection of evidence that will underpin the management plan. So CIFAS is working with Defra, the Marine Directorate of the Scottish Government, the Marine Management Organisation, and the fishing industry to identify and review the current measures used to manage Sprat fisheries, and to outline the proposals to develop management of Sprat fisheries in the North Sea and the English Channel waters. We will also aim to identify knowledge gaps and to develop a research roadmap for the North Sea and the Channel Sprat. So we aim this FMP to be a contribution towards achieving the fisheries objectives as set out by the Fisheries Act 2020, and also set the short and the long-term goals for management of Sprat in North Sea and Channel. And if you'd like to get involved and know more about the Sprat FMP, there is the email address. Please feel free to get in touch. Thank you. I will pass to Alex.
Thanks, Rory. My name is Alex Meiji. I'm a Principal Fisheries Manager with the Scallop FMP. Next slide, please. So the Scallop FMP covers the English waters of the southern North Sea. That's ICES areas 4B and 4C, as well as the English Channel. So that's ICES areas 7D, 7E. It covers 7 species. This is the thornback ray, blonde ray, undulate ray, small-eyed ray, spotted ray, cuckoo ray, and starry ray. The FMP's vision, as agreed with the industry working group, is to develop and deliver sustainable management of skate and ray fisheries in the English Channel and southern North Sea. The graph on the right there is quite useful to show the fishery changes across our different regions. So we understand that thornback ray are prominent in the North Sea. And as we move further west along the English Channel, blonde ray become quite important. It's key to know that other species appear to have quite localised abundances, and that's being picked up on through the FMP. Next slide, please. So some initial work has begun on this. We've been conducting some scoping work and initial engagement. We've taken a bit of a change of approach in that our first steps have seen us working with stakeholders to build a detailed understanding of the fishery, any existing management measures, that's both mandatory and voluntary, and any issues faced within the fishery. This has allowed us to go out and hold targeted conversations on management and get direct input from our stakeholders, working to reduce fatigue within those groups. We formed a working group built of commercial, recreation, and conservation stakeholders, as well as scientists and academic experts. We've actually just finished our first week of on-the-ground engagement on the Channel Coast, which was really positive, and we've had lots of really good feedback and input. We've already started to use this to revise some of our ideas and management, and we also have further sessions in the southern North Sea planned for the week commencing 4th of December. We're also planning on using online sessions, surveys, recreation fisheries evenings, and additional port visits to capture any additional input. Here the FMP email address is on the screen, so if anyone has any further information, just get in contact with us. Now I'll hand to Rachel, please.
Thanks, Alex. Hi everybody, my name is Rachel Thirlwell and I'm a Principal Fisheries Manager in the same team that Alex works in, and I am leading on the Southern North Sea Non-Quota Demersal FMP. So what does this FMP cover? So it covers the English waters of ICES areas 4B and 4C in the Southern North Sea, and it focuses on demersal non-quota species. So that's red, tub and grey gurnard, cuttlefish, squid, octopus, John Dory, red mullet and lesser spotted dogfish. And as Alex has pointed out, we are taking a bit of a slightly different approach in the way that we're developing these FMPs. So we have had these kind of initial internal conversations with MMO teams, with key stakeholders, and also looking at data that we've gathered as well from other organisations. And this was to help us develop some initial draft goals and management. And this is just so that we'd had something kind of tangible to bring to wider stakeholders rather than starting from scratch and asking them what they wanted. And it was just to allow for much more meaningful engagement within kind of reduced timelines. We've also utilised the regional fisheries groups this time around a lot more for drop-ins, for scoping engagement in October of this year. And that was to really understand the issues and also the opportunities that the fishers could see for this FMP and the species within it. We use these drop-ins again to just try and minimise the amount of times that we were going out to stakeholders and reduce that stakeholder fatigue on the coast. I've also set up an FMP working group for the Southern North Sea FMP, and this is made up of representatives from inshore and offshore sectors, as well as recreational sea angling representation. The working group this time around is much more of kind of an advisory group for the development of the FMP. So we're really testing with them the different management options, testing with them where we need to go out and engage. And this is prior to that in-person engagement. So moving on to the in-person engagement, we're running a series of drop-in events across the Southern North Sea, so ICES Areas 4B and 4C, and this is where we're going to take those drafted goals and management measures to the stakeholders across the coast, and this will be happening from the 5th to the 8th of December. So if you would like to come along to any of those drop-in sessions, then please do email us at fmp@marinemanagement.org.uk, and I would just like to thank everybody that's got in touch so far and has come along to working group meetings and also the RFG drop-ins. And I am now going to hand over to Helen.
Thanks very much, Rachel. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Helen Hunter from the Shellfish Policy team here in Defra, and I'm here to talk to you last but not least about the Queen Scallop FMP for English waters. So here's a lovely little chart here, which, as well as setting out where sort of the primary areas of Queen Scallop fishing are, it also sets out initially some of the challenges that we need to try and overcome with this FMP and some of the adventures that we're going to be going through. So as you can see up on the map there, and from the title of the presentation, we're looking to develop a Queen Scallop FMP for English waters. Now, as you can see there, obviously the red bits there are the fishing outside of MPAs for Queen Scallops. The green bits are inside MPAs. And as you can see, the main fisheries in the Irish Sea. There are some stock units sort of in the Channel, some in the North Sea, that are fished by vessels from all around the UK. So we're already starting with a bit of a challenge as to what actually is an English Queen Scallop FMP. Next slide, please. So the way we tried to tackle this, at least in the first stages, so we contracted an external consultancy firm, ABP Mayor, to carry out some initial scoping work. You know, there's a lot of information out there already. A fair amount of work has been done on this already on a UK basis, but just to try and, again, sort of pull that together and refresh what we had to help establish how an England-only FMP could be developed and applied. So where do we start from? And as I say, what are we talking about when we talk about an English Queen Scallop FMP? So as I say, the project collated information on the fishery. It looks at things, for example, such as the extent of available evidence to identify stock boundaries, so where the stocks lie, both in UK waters and English waters. It looks at things such as fleet structure and fleet spatial activity, the existing management measures that are out there and technical measures, sort of including best practice where that can be identified, the availability and robustness of stock assessment and fishing activity data. Again, that's kind of patchy, doesn't necessarily cover the whole stock area. And then things like sectoral representation among stakeholders to help us sort of define who we need to speak to about this and where to best target that, environmental considerations and evidence gaps. So all the things that obviously the FMP is going to need to cover. So this was a project to sort of start bringing that together so we can then look at how we might sort of move forward, because obviously any FMP that we have needs to make a worthwhile contribution to ensuring that the stocks are harvested sustainably. So I don't just want to bring an FMP in for the sake of it. Next slide, please. So we have that report now. We're just sort of working through it. But as I said, the main sort of benefits of it, as well as pulling that information together, is to basically help us decide collaboratively, or not just, even though Defra's the lead, obviously we're not just going to do this on our own. We want to speak to yourselves and various groups, but we kind of need to take a view on so any actions that are needed to improve the data that we have for the Queen Scallop fishery. Again, bearing in mind this is an England only plan, but this may need to be sort of a UK-wide look at things. We need to look at whether there are any potential management measures that could be introduced both in the short and longer term in English waters or in the English part of the stock that could improve sustainability. And we also need to bear in mind throughout the benefits and level of protection an England only plan and such measures could have on the stocks and how we might be able to apply those. And as I mentioned, that the report did also look at secretarial representation for this fishery. So again, we need to make sure that we're speaking to the right people, focusing on the right people, and trying to avoid a bit of this sort of stakeholder fatigue, as it were. So the way we've started that is we have an existing Queen Scallop management group that's reconvened, I'm pleased to say. So we've taken a few bits and pieces to them first. And as part of that group, we're going to look at, okay, who else do we need to go out and speak to? Not only who has an interest in the fishery, but who may have a wider interest in sort of environmental impacts, etc. So if you're interested, obviously, if you're on the Queenie group already, great. If you want to join it, there's an email address there. Or if you have any questions that occur to you after this, have any burning questions keeping you awake, again, there's the email address. And if you just have an interest, you may not want to sit on a group. If you're interested in being involved, again, do feel free to pop any emails to us in that mailbox and we'll pick those up. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Helen. And thanks very much to all of our presenters for the introductions to their FMPs. I'm going to invite all of the presenters to come back on screen now, Kaz, we're going to open the floor up for a Q&A.
Hi everyone, so yeah, I'm Jess. I'm a senior consultant working at ICF on environmental marine policy and yeah, just general environmental policy issues. So I'm working as part of the FMP evaluation team, and I'm just going to quickly go through and explain what the evaluation is and how you can take part. So yeah, we have been commissioned by Defra to undertake an independent evaluation of the FMP programme. The different people involved in that team, you have ICF, which I just mentioned then, CCRI, which is the Countryside and Community Research Institute, and Howe Marine Consulting as well. So the evaluation research occurs on a continual basis with the aim of generating lessons so that adjustments can be made to help improve the FMP programme and the development of the individual FMPs and how they're being delivered. So as well as providing learning, the evaluation will also help to provide evidence on whether the sort of programme outcomes are being achieved. So the fisheries outcomes, environmental outcomes, collaboration outcomes, and will also help to support any future monitoring and evaluation of the programme. So we have already completed a round of research on the previous FMPs I think Tom went through at the beginning, and we submitted a report to Defra with findings and recommendations. So the evaluation so far has generated some really useful insights about how the collaboration between FMP, the delivery partners, the public, industry, government, and other key stakeholder audiences, sort of how that has gone. These insights are being actively used by Defra and the policy teams and delivery partners to sort of adapt their ways of working and think about how they collaborate and develop FMPs in the future. We will be able to share some more of those insights and agreed actions once that initial report has been sort of finalised and confirmed by Defra. So we will sort of keep you up to date on that. And just thank you generally if you can contributed to that research previously. It's really valuable the time that you put in. We are undertaking the next round of research with the current list of FMPs that we discussed through today. So the evaluation team will be looking to engage again with delivery partners, working group members and wider stakeholders to gather views and opinions about the process and how it's gone. Next slide now. So how will we do that? There's a few different ways we capture that sort of evidence and learnings. So one is through feedback forms. So these are really short forms that will be sent out after any FMP related engagement events, so we can get your feedback on opinion on how the event went. So you'll see those sort of forms being shared after events that you attend. We will be sharing a link to this form after this event as well via email. So look out for that. And if you have the time and you're able to, it'd be great to sort of fill those responses out. Other research we'll be doing, so we'll be doing interviews again, we'll be attending the different events, so the stakeholder events and the working groups to sort of observe how they are going and provide any feedback to Defra. There will be a wider stakeholder survey, but that'll be later, so that'll be the beginning of next year. And we also use secondary data sources where we can as well, and bring that all together, analyse it, and then provide any sort of findings and recommendations back to Defra to help improve the process. And that is it from me on the evaluation.